All right, so this is a Sadness Diary. Thank you all so much for being here. I would say today I'm not as sad. I actually spoke a lot about mm, what I know. I was able to share my knowledge with someone, and that actually made me feel good. It wasn't so much about talking about my problem, it was more about sharing my knowledge with others. So that always helps because it just makes you feel proud of yourself. Like when you share your knowledge with others, it just makes you feel or reminds you that maybe I'm not so bad after all, right? Um, and then again, just making sure that it's within the scope of what the knowledge is, right? Like maybe, well, let me just start pulling some cards before I say things. But yeah, we'll see where this sadness diary is headed. And we have here the energy of Uranus and the seventh house of Libra. Okay, so Uranus is typically associated with rebellion or going against the status quo, right? And then the seventh house is the house of relationships, and Libra is all about balance. So, how do you bring about balance in your relationships if somewhere inside there is a spirit of rebellion? Or maybe you're dealing with feelings of rebellion, right? There could be something here about unpredictable and fractured relationship patterns. Okay, so yeah, before I started pulling cards, I wanted to say something about where I started with the sharing of knowledge, right? So, like, making sure that whatever knowledge you're sharing is within the scope of interest of the situation that's unfolding, that you're finding yourself involved in. So, yes, there has to be a certain amount of awareness that needs to be present when you begin to share whatever knowledge, just because there is always that there is always that chance that you start sharing information or you start just speaking like thinking that you're doing good, but in reality the receiving party maybe doesn't take it as good, right? And then it could probably lead to feelings of conflict, or it could lead to conflict. So that's just something to consider, right? So like being fully aware of, and that being fully in control of the amount of knowledge that you're sharing, and that it is adequate to the situation, right? So that is something there. And this could have something to do with patterns in relationships. So maybe there's like someone that you really care about, and we have the energy here of high expectations. So, maybe there's someone that you care about and you have high expectations for them. You see so much potential in them. And then you start sharing your point of view of what you think they should be doing or how they should be, conducting their affairs or managing. And then there could be like a little bit of like rebellion, like pushback, because like, this person probably feels like, why are they like giving me orders, or why are they trying to control my life and my affairs? That's maybe how it comes off, right? And that all has to do with high expectations. There's nothing wrong with keeping high expectations, but when you start directing it at others, you have to keep in mind that the receiving party has every right to react to it the way that they best see fit. Because if it was the other way around, you'd probably react the same way if someone came and started telling you how they think you should be, right? So those are things to bring into balance, right? To keep in mind. And then there's something here about chronically single, wants lover as a friend. Okay, there could be someone who is rebelling against relationships, right? Where again, because they don't want anyone to be controlling their life, or maybe because they feel like they already know if they were to get into a relationship what they're signing up for. So they'd rather keep it like at a distance, where it's like, yeah, like we can be somewhat exclusive, but you go home to your place and I'll come home to mine, and you do your stuff when you do your stuff, and let me do my stuff as I do my stuff. And it could have something to do with that. So and here's that energy of not wanting to take orders, right? Detached or over attached. So again, bringing this into balance. Someone refuses, okay, or you could be dealing with someone who refuses, or maybe you yourself are dealing with someone and you find yourself refusing, right? Because you feel like you know enough, or this person feels like they know enough, to the point where they're like, I'm a grown human being, like I know how to live my life, right? And that's pretty much everyone, right? So that's the energy. And then with Uranus also carries the energy of like rebelling, like I don't have to deal with this control, okay? Like breaking free from the control, right? And the only way that you break free from the control is to find the balance, to find that perfect balance. Because, it's like if you go against too much, then you might find yourself that you dug a hole too deep. But if you don't, stand up for yourself, then you'll just be a pushover. So it's about finding that perfect balance. And You know, and that also goes hand in hand with sharing knowledge, right? Like what you know versus what someone else knows, right? So I'm just gonna pull like 2 cards to reinforce this, and I'll leave it there. I have the King of Wands. So King of Wands is all about like self-assured personality, someone who is confident, someone who isn't afraid to speak their mind and do what they do and live their life the way they live their life. King of Wands is the leader, okay? Someone who is like absolutely confident in how they are leading their life and where they are headed in life, right? King of Wands is like big picture thinking. All right, so that could be the energy that you're dealing with. And then Justice, it's literally the card of balance, right? Like a karmic balance, like taking into account how your actions today will affect your events tomorrow, right? And what you say now, how it will affect later on down the road. So Justice is about keeping that discernment and having the knowledge to be able to distinguish, right, between what is necessary and what is unnecessary. And that's also another way, that you share knowledge is like if you don't always have to speak it, right? Like King of Wands is leader. Everyone has leadership inside of them, but not everyone is able to direct it in a productive way, right? So sometimes you can show leadership, you can show knowledge by doing less, by saying less. And again, that is according to the time, right? So being aware and being knowledgeable of when to act and when not to act. So overall, that is the energy. My sadness diary. Today I started off a little like, I wasn't totally saddened or depressed or anything, but I was a little like, I don't know what the word to describe it would be. I'll put it on the edits when I think of it. But yeah, hopefully there was some little nugget of wisdom here and something that you can relate to in regards to your current events. And thanks you so much for being here. Goodbye.